it doesn't look like she's really had any work done besides like the white streak in her hair. She needs lip filler. She has a lot of issues that she could get taken care of, but she hasn't chosen to do that, which I do respect.
You know, adrenochrome does wonders. And I know she's not a member of the Democratic Party per se, but I'm sure she still has access to some of the same
you have to make it
child
to the
vendors.
You have to make it to the general before you get the adrenochrome injections.
I know we've been trying to get channel retention up, so that's why I did a very long segment where we're going to talk about Tulsi Gabbard, because I know how exciting she is to everybody. So
talk about reptilian, man.
You may remember a time not too long ago with a presidential race underway with a Super Friends, a seemingly left-wing Super Friends, a veritable Earth's mightiest heroes of left-wing politics. We had Amy Comrade Klobuchar, Pete Bakunin Buttigieg, Kamala Ho Chi Minh Harris.
I love that. That's great.
And Tulsi Eugene Debs Gabbard.
Yeah, right.
And she was really the breakout star of that presidential election cycle. Certainly the primary. Democratic
she was
primary.
a semi-attractive female, so that helps.
She's attractive.
I think.
I wouldn't put a semi in there.
You find her much more attractive than I do. To me, she looks like I don't know, man. She looks like a human being with like an animal's teeth.
Well, as somebody that visited Hawaii for 5 days, I feel a special spiritual connection with her. You know, you Howleys may not understand how we island people think and speak. And
you probably watch Moana. That's why you like her.
That's probably true. So this is what we're going to look at tonight. How do we get from this?
Know the importance of our national security, as well as the terribly high cost of war. And for too long, our leaders have failed us, taking us from one regime change war to the next, leading us into a new Cold War and arms race, costing us trillions of our hard-earned taxpayer dollars and countless lives. This insanity must end. As president, I will take your hard-earned taxpayer dollars and instead invest those dollars into serving your needs. Things like health care, a green economy, good-paying jobs, protecting our environment, and so much more.
To now this.
Sounds pretty good. Green stuff. Yeah, environment.
Great to see you. And we're happy to be joined by the man she just introduced earlier today. Now, not only have you been campaigning for Herschel in Georgia, you were in New Hampshire for Bolduc. You've been crisscrossing the nation. Again, the Democrats are running on January 6th, abortion, and Greeniac policies, I guess.
There's Herschel Walker on the screen in the back.
I mean, I don't understand what their strategy is.
He's out campaigning for him.
It really confounds me.
Whatever it is, it's out of touch with what everyday Americans are looking for in their leaders right now all across the country, both in these statewide
Herschel
races
Walker got his finger on the pulse of
and that's what
average
I've been
Americans.
From a lot of people is they're just
They
hearing
just put him on the screen
a lot of smears and lies and attacks coming from the Democrats, but not really what
He
do
really
they stand
is.
for? What record can they stand on? Because they can't. There's nothing but these radical so-called woke policies that they're trying to push on the people.
Such
and the people
as?
are saying,
Example,
no,
please.
We're not going to let you take over raising our kids for us. Parents are really, really concerned about this across the country.
Concerned about
We're
what?
not going to let you to continue to make our communities
Litter
less
boxes,
safe. The border is a
James.
real issue. I was with Myra Flores down in McAllen on the border.
Oh, the generalizations. Can we get a concrete example of what the fuck you're talking about, please?
Absolutely not.
On the Herschel Walker note, can I just play a little bit of this Chappelle SNL? I know you haven't seen it yet. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't put it in the video pod, but it could be in the audio pod because this will get copyright stricken. Not sure. Oh, this is great. He's so good. Dave Chappelle's so fucking good, bro. It's not even what he says half the time. It's just how funny he is.
He's mastered the art form. He knows how to do it on every single level.
I don't think it's even that. I think he's just naturally a very funny guy. Like he was just born and people started laughing.
I don't want to speak badly of because he's black. But I have to admit, he's observably stupid.
Observably stupid. That's it. That describes him.
Yeah.
Even when he's not talking, his mouth be open a little bit like. He's the kind of guy that looks like he thinks before he makes a move on tic-tac-toe.
think that's it on Herschel. Just great. Brilliant stuff from Chappelle as always. He's very funny when he doesn't like trans bash.
He's even funny when he does trans bash.
Yeah, most of the stand-up was good. But for like 3 stand-ups, that's all he wanted to talk about. Yeah,
he did talk about it a lot. It was a hobby horse he was riding there for a couple years.
He probably likes tranny porn.
Don't we all?
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Don't we all? Get some amphetamines in your system. There's nothing better, what I hear. Okay, so Tulsi. So I guess go through the history of Tulsi a little bit and talk about her family. We're going to try to get inside the mind of this young lady that was once a rising star of the left, and actually somebody who I donated to her presidential campaign. So I don't know what that says about me. I've donated to 2 presidential campaigns, James. The first was Andrew Yang. The second was Tulsi Gabbard. Now, what does that say about me as a person?
You're very gullible.
Yes.
That's disappointing because Bernie was running too with Tulsi.
I was going to say I'll vote for anybody that goes on Joe Rogan, but then or I'll donate to anybody. But yeah, I would have voted for Bernie in a heartbeat. Obviously,
I mean Tulsi was saying the same sort of stuff at the time, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, she really was.
She's much hotter than Bernie.
That she is. Okay, one more little clip real quick. Get started on the history of Tulsi Gabbard. So this is Mike Gabbard, who you may have heard about. This is Tulsi's father, and this is Tulsi here in the background. All right, we get the point.
What the fuck? I have not heard about her father. Who's her father?
You've not heard about her father? Oh, well, excellent, because I've got a whole little segment on Mike Gabbard, who is her father. Okay, so unlike what this absolutely not propagandistic music video shows, the Gabbards are actually not Hawaiian. We've been lied to, James. It's a lie. But yes, Tulsi was actually a native Samoan. So I don't even think that's part of America. I'm curious as to why nobody's asked where her birth certificate is from. But yeah, so we'll start off talking about Tulsi's father. So this is Mike Gabbard. It's featured prominently here in this video with the very pleasant singing voice. Mike Gabbard was certainly a big influence on her life. She, like him, pretends to be Hawaiian. They're both low-key political chameleons.
Hold on a second. Just put the brakes on this. I thought Samoan was a Hawaiian thing. I thought Samoans were from Hawaii. Am I wrong about that?
Samoans are from Samoa.
Yeah, but I thought American Samoa was Hawaii.
No, American Samoa is another Polynesian island. It's like further left.
Oh.
It's like out there by the Marshall Islands. It's like way over there. It's basically like the Philippines almost.
Yeah, it's one of those places we like drop nukes on.
Yeah. It's I think it's right like really close to Bikini Atoll, where we just bombed it into oblivion. I'm surprised you. I don't know. I guess if you didn't follow Tulsi when she kind of first made her debut, you may not have heard much about her father. But he was certainly a controversial figure, and she had to do a little bit of apologizing on his behalf.
Did you see how many candidates were on that primary stage?
I don't know. What was it, 10?
A lot. More than I can keep track of their parents.
Well, like most of them, to be fair, like didn't count. Like Amy Klobuchar, nobody give a fuck about her. Remember Mike O'Malley? It was like the most exactly.
Sounds like a UFC fighter.
He may have been. Nobody knows. In the 70s and 80s, along with being a resort tennis pro, Mike Gabbard worked his way up through the ranks of the American Samoa public school system. He started off as the lowly high school English teacher to become the dean of what is often referred to as the Cambridge of the Polynesian Islands, American Samoa Community College. By the late 80s, Mike seemed to have been getting restless and started wanting to make an impact on his adoptive home of Hawaii. Along with starting a slew of hospitality businesses to cash in on those tiresome haoles, Mike began taking an interest in politics, particularly the politics of the culture war. He began working for and making important political connections with Hawaiian state senators, along with involving himself in an eclectic range of other organizations and self-started ventures. Let me get a picture pulled up real quick. During this time, he joined the Science of Identity Foundation, which is definitely not a cult.
What the fuck?
And I wish everyone would quit calling it that, where Mike and his wife taught yoga and the philosophy of, I'm going to try to say this, guy. I want to have a picture available so you can...
Science of Identity?
The Science of Identity Foundation, yeah. So this guy right here, You may think he has a white name, but his name is Siddhaswarupananda Goswami, simply known by his colonizer name, Chris Butler. So this guy taught kind of this spiritual Hindu philosophy based around yoga and abstention from certain worldly vices such as alcohol, smoking, gambling, and illicit sex. That's going to come up later.
Illicit sex? What's the difference?
Illicit sex is it's non-hetero sex.
Mouth fucking?
It's yeah, probably mouth fucking, because married people do not do that.
No.
I
can attest to that. I've been married for years.
Yeah, no more mouth fucking. But yeah, it's basically like outside of the in this context, it's outside of heterosexual marital sex.
Why do these guys that are anti-gay always look so gay? What the fuck, man?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Abstention from certain worldly vices such as alcohol, smoking, gambling, and illicit sex. Also, Goswami was definitely not cucking Mike with Tulsi's mom. It was through the family's association with the
I'm glad we
science.
cleared that up.
It's just, it did not happen. I wish people would quit saying it did. It was through the family's association with the Science of Identity Foundation that a certain young Tulsi Gabbard would become a convert and would go on to become the first Hindu member of Congress. I did not know that.
Tulsi's a Hindu.
She's a Hindu and she's a fake Hawaiian. That's double cultural appropriation. Someone needs to call Ibram Kendi right now. So during this period, Mike Gabbard began his self-funded radio program, Let's Talk Straight Hawaii. Obviously, emphasis on the straight there, where the broader public began to be exposed to his rampant homophobia that would go on to characterize him for decades to follow. But it wasn't really the bad kind of homophobia, James. It's not like a repressed Alabama Baptist taking out his pent-up sexual frustration over not being able to fuck his big-titty cousin. On the real deviants, Mike, he was an enlightened, Eastern, New Age homophobia with yoga and cuckoldry. In the early 90s, after the failure of his vegetarian restaurant...
Hold on. Yoga and homophobia do not go together, dude. If you're a yoga guy, you're a little bit gay, at least a little bit. Sorry, yeah. Joe Rogan.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so, but apparently they do. Apparently, at least they pick the one yoga sect hippie guru guy that doesn't like homosexuality.
Yeah, they found a niche. They found the anti-gay yoga niche.
we like kombucha, but we hate gay people. That's the vote we need to get.
We need to be really flexible for our heterosexual sexual relations.
Our marital heterosexual relations that are not happening anymore. So in the early 90s, after the failure of his vegetarian restaurant, because New Age, remember, due to backlash over comments on his radio show that he would preferentially hire straight employees over homosexuals, Gabbard founded a series of organizations in an attempt to propagate his homophobic agenda. Question for you, James. On a scale of 1 to 3, how many homophobic organizations did Mike found?
I'm going to have to go with the average. I'm going to say 2.
Okay. You are off by 1. It was 3. He founded 3 different separate organizations, including an organization where he was doing the gay conversion therapy with yoga. This is what come out on when Tulsi was running for president, and she had to profusely apologize for it because apparently she was working for the organization at the time. This is probably about the time the music video was filmed. She was working with her dad with this yoga anti-gay stuff.
Odd comment. Why do you need to add in why can't you just have a yoga studio? Why do you have to add in the fucking homophobia? It seems like you're like cutting your market down substantially there.
This guy right here, this guy is very persuasive.
He looks like that preacher. What's that preacher?
Like Joel Osteen?
Yes, Joel Osteen. That's it. He looks like Osteen or Osteen.
Why are we suffering? These are questions asked by persons who are seriously interested in spiritual life.
He has a very serious look on his face, yeah. His fucking horse face.
So in 2002, Mike Gabbard began his first foray into local politics, and he landed his first big win on the Republican ticket in 2006 to the Hawaii State Senate. Now, running as a Republican in Hawaiian state politics was virtually an exercise in impotence, which incidentally is not a problem with Goswami, or so Mike's wife told him. At that time, Democrats had a long-established supermajority, making the Hawaiian Republicans into what is essentially the Green Party on the national stage. A minor annoyance you hear about, making ineffectual symbolic gestures, really only having any power by aligning themselves on internecine Democratic factional conflicts.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a state that was just colonized not that long ago. It's probably going to be pretty fairly liberal.
It seems to be. So not wanting to be a tool in someone else's project, Mike Gabbard, very controversially at the time, crossed the aisle and became a Democrat a mere 7 months after his inauguration, or as he explained, after much careful consideration with my family and constituents. Definitely seems sincere.
Yeah. That's what Bernie's famous for, swapping parties and, changing his position throughout the years. What do I have to say to get elected? And then it's the swapping positions is pretty standard, but the doing it so publicly that it's I don't know. I mean, that's where power lies. So that's where he ended up going. Yeah. Anyways, enough of old Papa Gabbard. He can go back to being a political chameleon, listening to the steady smack of the headboard against his bedroom wall as he cries himself to sleep in the living room. Is he dead yet, or is he still alive? No, he's still alive. He's still in politics too. That's unfortunate. There's a video of him campaigning for Tulsi in 2020. Oh, what was it? There was a Bob Dylan song. The Times They Are A-Changin'. He's like in some little dive bar doing his own rendition of The Times They Are A-Changin'. It was actually really good. He's a excellent singer, guitar player. That's good to hear. Yeah, it is. Sorry about having you vote for somebody on a false pretense, but here's a song. Okay, so with that rather long prologue out of the way, we get to the subject of the segment, Tulsi, which incidentally is a Hindu name for holy basil. In 2002, at the tender age of 21, Tulsi became the youngest person ever to be elected to the Hawaii state legislature. She ran on the Democratic Party ticket with a platform of addressing environmental issues, which is a problem more at the forefront of Hawaiian politics than it is on the national stage. I guess being a small island ecosystem, the effects of the chemicals on coral reefs and pollution in the ocean is much more visible there than it is places like Kentucky. And they do go ham in Hawaii over, like, there's no plastic straws anywhere on the island. Good. There's only, so you can only use buy natural sunscreens, because I guess there's like chemicals in the other sunscreens that'll screw up. Yeah, there's aluminum. Also, the United States military just leaked a bunch of fucking diesel fuel into the tap water, the underground aquifers, like Jesus not that long, like a few months ago. Well, they got plenty of ocean water. They'll be all right. Drink that, you fucking dirty islanders. Go back to eating smoked pig and playing your ukuleles, and don't worry about the weird taste in your water. Put some more flowers in your hair. At this early point, you could have called Tulsi a promising young leftist. In fact, she was lauded as such when she would later hit the national stage. She had the markers of someone that could be a tour de force in leftist politics. A young woman from a solidly middle-class background, kind of the personification of the American dream. Her father was an indigenous man that worked his way up through the public education system. Tulsi grew up around indigenous Hawaiians and would have seen the deleterious effects of policy and governmental neglect all around her. She even practiced yoga and studied Hindu philosophy at an early age, which would set her apart from others like Lauren Boebert or Matt Gaetz or some milquetoast Democrat like Amy Klobuchar. Let me just interject here for just a second. The Hindu religion is not a very liberal religion. It's, the caste system and like the just the subservience to power. It's not really something to be upheld by the left. Yeah, but hippies, the Beatles, went to India. So you're looking too deep. We're just looking surface level here. On the surface level. If you meditate for any reason, it's definitely like a liberal thing to do, right? If you have any flexibility, like you maybe did yoga once. Like I can go to any random neighbor up here. I don't think I may be the only person on this road that can touch my toes. I think you might be right about that. I think I'm pretty sure I am. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, incidentally, do you think a degree of worldliness or comfortability with cultures that are, I guess, like foreign to the average American citizen is a benefit or irrelevant? Like when you're looking at a candidate, does something like that, is it completely irrelevant? Or do you think, like this person, spent some time in a foreign country for a couple of years, not invading it, just, hanging out? Sure, that could be a small factor. Primarily, I'm looking at economic policy positions, but, that's definitely a factor, sure. She really had all the pedigrees that would make her a serious contender when she would inevitably reach the national stage. Around this time, she even joined the Hawaii National Guard and voluntarily served overseas, which is where she picked up the next big plank for her platform, which would be pulling out of foreign engagements and providing better service for veterans. Okay, so this is where Tulsi hits the national stage. This was in 2010. Do you remember what was going on in 2010? It was kind of a big year. No, it doesn't ring a bell. Sorry, man. Okay, all right, it will.
So yeah, 2010, I like to call this the year of Tulsi's debutante ball. And like a 14-year-old girl in Louisiana, she was presented to the droves of elderly perverts in Washington for examination, and they liked what they saw.
You heard Speaker Boehner tell Bob Schieffer, well, there are too many laws. We're in the business of repealing them.
That's irrelevant to people at home. When you're talking about passing laws and repealing laws, they're saying, look, how are you improving our education? How are you reducing the deficit and empowering our small business owners to create more jobs in our local economies? And I think that's where, as frustrating as it is, it's important that we stay focused on where's the opportunity. And that's where I think not only on the Democratic caucus, but also in the Republican caucus, there are a growing number of people who are saying we're not here to obstruct. We're here to get something done. And let's.
Okay, so this was a little bit later, but this is essentially the same platform that Tulsi kind of come to prominence with in 2010. So 2010, we're at the bottom of the 2008 recession. Unemployment is at its all-time high. The BP oil platform has ejaculated crude all over the Gulf. And Speaker John Boehner and Mitch McConnell have made it a public matter of principle that they will obstruct every piece of legislation the Democrats try to pass. This is also when the Tea Party sweeps into power with aspirations of ending Obamacare and rooting out the Muslim Brotherhood sleeper agents pervading our institutions. As a nation, we're also reconciling with being at continuous war for 10 years in Afghanistan and the issues affecting servicemen and women, such as addressing deployment-related healthcare issues and sexual assault. Here's this young, photogenic, and motivated freshman congresswoman that is... Fresh woman should be a word, right? Is that
fresh
sexist?
Person.
Fresh person. Okay.
Yeah.
A fresh person congresswoman that essentially ran as an advocate for service members. Tulsi presented herself as a non-ideological and uninterested in the partisanship and larger power brokering between the parties. However, regardless of how she positioned herself, she was on the losing side of the new power dynamic in the election. The first wave of the real crazies swept into Washington, and it was with them that she was introduced to Washington. She gained notoriety again in 2015 in the early days.
Hold on. You went through that really fast. So how did she get her start in Washington?
I'm trying to set the stage for, like, there was all this major political tumult going on, and there was an incredibly motivated, powerful, conservative opposition that was primarily interested in culture war crap and made up issues.
Sure.
I guess is the point.
So we've already established that basically her positions are socially liberal, and her father was fairly socially liberal as well, except for like the gay stuff. But economically, we haven't really heard much, except that he was a Republican initially.
Well, yeah, he was a Republican. He didn't really have any. I couldn't really find anything about it. Are you talking about Mike Gabbard?
Right, her father.
I think his main platforms were the anti-gay stuff and environmental issues. So he was lauded at the time. He led the effort in Hawaii to have Hawaii announce, I guess they were the first state to announce that they would be completely dependent on green energy. I think it was like 2042.
So that's sort of an economic policy issue, because anytime you're promoting environmental issues, that cuts against right-wing capitalism.
Yeah, no, Mike Gabbard, from what I could tell, looking at the policies that he really ran on, the stuff that he pushed through, he was fairly left-wing, except for the anti-gay stuff.
Yeah.
By and large, like I said, his main focus seemed to have been environmental issues.
And proving to everyone that he's not gay.
That he's definitely not being cucked by that Goswami guy. But no, yeah, he passed some legislation to get like certain chemicals banned from the islands. Made the pledge that they'd be energy independent by 2042, which I believe was the first state at that time to make that pledge. I mean, I don't know how much progress they've made towards it, but
completely non-binding, I'm sure. But
they started building the big wind turbines on some of the islands. So I don't know if that had to do with him. I know those things were built fairly recently. So Tulsi gains notoriety again. But yeah, I guess the point of the last section was just the people that she's working with and kind of how she's positioned herself and who she's going to have to work with when she first kind of comes into Washington politics. What the big issues of the time are.
How did she get to Washington, though? Was she elected to some sort of federal national office?
Yeah, she became a congresswoman. She ran in 2010 as a member of the House for Hawaii. Yes.
Okay. That's pretty good. They only have 2, right? Hawaii has 2, I think.
And especially for how young she was at the time.
It makes sense because you're not going to fucking get elected to the House as a Republican from Hawaii. It doesn't excuse the fact that she's a reactionary, or a class traitor, one could say, if you were a proponent of the DNC.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's 2 districts in Hawaii. One district, which is just Honolulu, and the second district includes Oahu and all the other islands. So she gains notoriety again in 2015 in the early days of the presidential campaign cycle. ISIS had been a thorn in the Obama administration's side for some time, and were making progress in Iraq and Syria. Republicans, in an early version of what plagues our discourse today.
Yeah, wokeness is my biggest issue. It really bothers me.
Okay, yeah. So once again, we have Republicans at the time were pointing out the main issue with the Obama administration. And why ISIS was making such progress in Iraq and Syria. Obviously, it's wokeness. In steps Tulsi.
And what is so frustrating now, as we look at the situation there, our administration refuses to recognize who our enemy is. And unless and until that happens, then it's impossible to come up with a strategy to defeat that enemy. We have to recognize that this is about radical Islam. This is as much
Okay, that right there is what got her put on the hot seat.
What the fuck is she wearing, bro?
She's Hawaiian. She's not even Hawaiian, she's Samoan. Cultural appropriation. So, Republicans were upset because Obama refused to say at the time, you may remember this, radical Islam. Or Obama refused in any way to acknowledge that one of the root causes of the barbarity of ISIS was their rather straightforward adherence to Islamic theology.
Well, that's one interpretation of it, sure.
So Tulsi, in what I can only assume was an early attempt to test the waters for a potential presidential run, began going on every cable news show that would have her to state this, to use the Republican framing and specifically the Republican verbiage of radical Islam.
Yeah.
You know me, I don't think she's wrong, but I'm not sure why she needed to do it. Either way, she endeared herself early on to the Fox News mammals and papaws of the world and the pundits that lie to them.
Wow, yeah, that's enlightening. She actually was spouting Republican propaganda in 2010. Interesting.
And for little reason, this is 2015, so we've moved forward a few years, yeah. She'd just been in Congress 5 years, and she really hadn't made too much of a name for herself. At this time, she was pretty closely aligned with, I guess, the far left wing of the Democratic Party. You know, she was supporting Bernie Sanders at the time. She was like considered the 2010 AOC. And then just kind of out of nowhere, she starts going on Fox News and CNN and all these other channels and saying that the problem with the Obama administration and with what's going on are travails in the Middle East were radical Islam.
She's like the very first version of Jimmy Dore.
That's one way to put it. So yeah, Tulsi's public feud with the Obama administration really made her bones as not being a Democratic team player. And that was made all the more apparent during her first Joe Rogan Experience appearance. Now, there's nothing unique about positioning yourself as a maverick that stands above the lowly partisan bickering. I think getting the Rogan nod was big for Tulsi. And that podcast, she really came off as genuine, which made her stand apart in a Democratic field full of Buttigieg's and Kamala's and Amy Klobuchar's. Tulsi's public feud with the Obama administration really made her bones as not being a Democratic team player. Goes on to the 2016 election cycle, and she supports Bernie Sanders, endorses him, and works for his campaign. Now we move on to the 2020 Tulsi Gabbard, where she actually makes her first presidential bid.
She's a psyop. She endorsed Bernie just to fucking try to tank his run. She's a psyop.
Well, this was, 2016, where the only thing she'd really said at that point was the radical Islam to really set her apart from, the Democratic mainline platform.
That's enough to get on Fox News, though.
I got her on Fox News several times.
It's pretty interesting. She was a trailblazer for this Jimmy Dore style modern red-brown stuff, it seems like.
Oh, yeah.
She wasn't scared of blowback from the DNC. She wasn't scared of being criticized by the public for her side swapping or turn cloaking or anything like that. She was more interested in just notoriety and getting headlines.
She always presented, of course, like everybody does this, but she really presented herself as being outside of the parties and not interested. She's just here to get done what she can for her constituents, and who cares about the political games? She come up, certainly like she was not Clinton aligned. Never was one of those Democrats. kind of had a public feud with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It was aside from all those big Democratic Party players.
She's completely. She's decided to completely avoid all of the economic issues, which is probably a smart strategy in this country. Just completely avoid it. Don't even mention it. Don't take a position on any of it. Support Bernie because he has a huge base, but then just talk about cultural shit.
Okay, so now we get to her 2020 presidential bid. So this is when she goes on Rogan for the first time. She got the Rogan nod. She really come off well in the first podcast.
The Rogan bump.
Yeah, it worked on me. Really, I mean, and she honestly did. She come off as really genuine, which to juxtapose that to her most recent one where she left the left, she sounded very politician-y and very careful with her speech. The first time she was pretty open. Just come off well, which obviously made her stand apart in the Democratic field of very stiff politician-y politicians like Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, Klobuchar, Michael Malley. She also ran her campaign at the time without taking any money from business, which really has universal appeal really across the political spectrum.
Yeah, but was that, how much money was she going to get?
Not much.
Very little.
Obviously, that's just a political thing. It's a messaging thing. She's not going to get any money anyway, so she just puts herself out there as, well, I'm going to refuse any big business donations, which I don't know, how much would that have amounted to anyways? She probably got more money off going on Rogan than she would from any particular company. They already had their people that they were backing.
A company can only donate a $1,300 or something anyway. That's why all the members of the company are the ones that actually donate. They can all donate $1,000, and then it adds up. But technically, she's not taking money from companies.
Okay, yeah. So she goes on Rogan. She comes off really well, and she kind of surprisingly starts appealing to a demographic that she certainly was going for, but I don't know if she would have, if anybody at the time would have realized how big a reaction she would have gotten from the right wing. And how much they absolutely loved her. So this is some of the comments from the first Joe Rogan appearance. I was trying to say appearance and experience at the same time. But there's a lot of stuff like this. I'm a lifelong conservative, but if there were more politicians like her, the country would be a much better place. She gets it and practices what she preaches.
Crazy how far being attractive will get you on the right wing, especially.
There's more comments. As a Republican, I was rooting for her. I'm a Trump Republican, and I watched her in the debates and thought she was far and away the best Democratic candidate. She had a lot of appeal from the right wing and started realizing it certainly after the Rogan. This is from the 2020 election cycle, her Rogan appearance.
The most recent one? Oh, no, not the most recent one.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, her most recent one was her Left the Left.
Damn, I hate to see her go,
Yeah. So, and her platform during her presidential bid was really nothing to scoff at either. Within the paradigm, obviously this is within the paradigm of U.S. electoral politics, she was pretty good. Or at least making many of the noises I wanted to hear from a presidential hopeful.
I think if she had won, she would have just been basically like Brandon is now. She would have probably appointed some of the same people. I don't think she would have been as strong on labor, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I doubt it though. Probably would have been, Janet Yellen in there and all these sort of DNC Democratic operatives.
Shout out to Janet Yellen.
Her most recent take on the Russia thing was not terrible.
Look, there are a lot of reasons for me to make this decision. There are a lot of challenges that are facing the American people that I'm concerned about and that I want to help solve. Issues relating to making sure that people who are sick get access to the health care that they need, making sure that people who are stuck in our broken criminal justice system and the families that are torn apart are being helped, that are being served, making sure we're taking action to protect our planet for us and for the future. There's a whole host of issues that I'm looking forward to addressing, and there is one main issue that is central to the rest, and that is the issue of war and peace. And I look forward to being able to get into this and to talk about it in depth when we make our announcement.
Okay, so this is Tulsi's platform at the time. She was pro-Medicare for all, pro-legalization, pro-criminal justice reform, and pulling out of all foreign interference across the globe. Of course, she also had the very memorable moments of these pot shots that she took at Kamala Harris.
That's a pretty smart strategy. A little bit of right, a little bit of left in there.
What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system, that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator.
Yeah,
Kamala's a fucking monster.
She really is. And I think that alone, like that would have got me to donate to her. Just beating up on Kamala on the national stage.
I know, man.
She's so unlikable. You just look at her face the entire time and just,
the fact
she
that
looks
she
like
was
a prosecutor.
Yeah, it just, you don't deserve to be a member of the human race.
She looks like the prosecutor out here in Meade County. Exactly. Like has the same, that doesn't look like her, but has the same facial expression, carries herself the same way. So naturally I'm going to hate her.
Vote her off the island.
You're out.
And by the island, I mean the planet Earth.
So it was during this presidential bid that she started getting asked to come on Tucker Carlson's program quite a bit, where they seemed to have an uneasy truce and mutual respect for how they lambasted Democrats. Realistically, at this time, it made sense for a candidate such as herself to reach out to Tucker viewers. She had that broad audience and palatability to the right. Of course, as we all know, Tulsi did not become president. She dropped out after not doing well in several of the early states primaries and endorsed Biden over Sanders.
She went on Tucker during the primaries?
Yes.
2020 primaries? Wow. Yeah. That is unheard of, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think anybody else was going on there, but she had built that base amongst the right wing where they seen her as the one good Democrat, the one that they could relate to, the one that she had some appeal to them. Don't know what it is that some crusty old man in Alabama would like about Tulsi and her huge tracts of land. I don't know.
A lot of normies like Tucker, man. It makes sense. That was very smart of her.
Oh, she's certainly a very savvy political player.
She's an operative, yeah.
Operative. So she dropped out after not doing well in several of the early states primaries, endorsed Biden over Sanders, which was a shock to some, being that she had previously worked with and endorsed Sanders in his 2016 campaign.
Not a shock. He was polling higher at that point. Sanders was.
Well, I think this was, right before the Super Tuesday, where he was like slightly edging out Biden at the time, but Biden had been making a lot of ground recently. And then this was when Kamala, Buttigieg, and Tulsi all dropped out at the same time. And then all of them backed Biden, which kind of threw him over the top in the race.
Yeah, that's called stabbing fucking Bernie Sanders in the back.
I believe that is what it's called. So obviously, Tulsi had been welcomed on conservative media outlets for years for her correctly bashing the incestuous and corrupt Democrat Party and her not woke stance on the roots of Islamism. It's refreshing that someone other than Gert Wilders, Sam Harris, and myself found the courage to speak up, really.
I think the most popular religion on the planet is definitely corrupt to its core, but I mean, no more so than the other religions, in my opinion.
It wouldn't be long until she'd grow out her badass rogue gray streak. Yeah. Get it? Because she's a rogue and she's got the rogue.
Yeah.
Anyway.
She definitely grew that out.
And she started getting invites to speak at CPAC, which is perfectly normal for people on the left to do. You know, we all remember Sam Cedar's CPAC speech in 2020.
How can I forget it?
David Barsimyan rocked those conservative socks off back in 2010.
I think Chomsky was at the CPAC, wasn't he?
I believe he was. It was a while ago. It was like he went it was like 10 years after Eugene Debs. I think that was his last speech before he died.
Right after the New Deal.
Right. We're going to go to CPAC. We're going to talk about gay people.
Reaction to each other saying, yeah, there's going to probably be some strong thoughts that people were going to share with both of us when they find out that I'm coming here. And we both kind of, I imagined you were nodding, Matt. I was nodding, but we're like, you know what? Bring it on. And they brought it on. So it wouldn't surprise you to know that on
I lost my time code on this one.
Lock the doors, don't let her in. While these things can be easy to laugh at, is not limited to social media. It is something that's happening far too often and far too common across our country, where one section of our country sticks to our own tribe. We only hang out with and listen to and talk to people who we agree with in this country. It's emblematic of this lack of recognition.
Jesus Christ, they have a picture of Reagan in the background. It says awake, not woke.
We are one nation under God.
Wokeness was a real
and
problem.
Knowing that inspires us.
70s and 80s, man.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, here's Tulsi Gabbard nowadays campaigning for Herschel Walker, speaking at CPAC in front of a giant poster of Ronald Reagan. Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
I do have to say, one thing I do respect about Tulsi Gabbard is it doesn't look like she's really had any work done besides like the white streak in her hair. Because she could have her gums need to be done. She needs lip filler. She has a lot of issues that she could get taken care of, but she hasn't chosen to do that, which I do respect.
You know, adrenochrome does wonders. And I know she's not a member of the Democratic Party per se, but I'm sure she still has access to some of the same. You have to make it to the vendors.
You have to make it to the general before you get the adrenochrome injections.
Jesus, I want some. I remember the first time hearing about adrenochrome, like the first time I watched Fear and Loathing. I was like, dude, I would fucking try adrenochrome right now.
Oh yeah,
I would chew on somebody's pineal gland in a heartbeat.
I'd kill a hooker to get us some adrenochrome.
So, James, how does modern Tulsi square the circle of how she presented herself back then? If this wasn't about her own advancement and her own ego, then why did she forsake essentially every single issue she first ran on to endorse political candidates that are diametrically opposed to her? Why is she taking such a self-serving route to power and visibility? I mean, is this her views actually changing? Is she getting paid to do this? Is this something like her father did, which was to take the easiest route to be able to serve his constituents in the best way, like that he's just a conduit of power to his constituents, and he switches parties back and forth to be able to best implement the platform that he feels like he needs to implement. What is it?
So is she a flip-flopper because she's trying to live up to her daddy's expectations or otherwise be
is she a flip-flopper because she has a certain platform, because she wants the power to be able to do the things that she thinks need to be done? Is she flip-flopping because for personal reasons, for her own power and her own visibility? I mean, she does, like in the first example, like she does care about veterans issues. Is she just aligning herself with the party that she thinks will be able to best help her take care of the issues that she thinks she needs to take care of? Is it purely for her own personal gain, her own power and visibility, or is it just completely cynical and she just? I think with her, I feel like it really is a bit of both. Like I think she honestly cares about the stuff she talks about. These are things these are issues that she's held for, over a decade. Well, I mean, 2 decades really. When she first started dabbling in politics back in the early 2000s, kind of her main issues have always been Hawaiian, specifically environmental issues, and the military, servicemen and women, taking care of their health issues. It seems like she goes where, like exactly what her father did, that she just kind of jumps back and forth to whatever group she's going to be able to enact what she's wanting to do. Wherever the power, wherever the route to taking care of the issues that she feels like needs to be taken care of, that's the way she's going to go.
Well, I think the issues you're talking about are specific to Hawaii politics, like the environmental issues and the military. Since she's moved on from there, I've seen her in a few things. She was in a debate with like Ben Burgess not that long ago on a panel with some other people. Tim Pool was on the panel. I haven't heard her really talk about environmental issues at all. I think she's completely cynical. I think she made a brilliant move. She's really put herself apart from the rest of the DNC candidates in 2020 during that primary and positioned herself for a run at the RNC, the GOP primary for presidential candidate. I think she's going to run against DeSantis in 2024 probably, or 2028 maybe. 2024, I think, though. I think she's really positioned herself really well. She's ingratiated herself to the Tucker Carlson fans, which is the biggest voting bloc of Republican base that there is. He's the #1 cable news show for a reason. I think she's playing a smart game.
Well, sure. Yeah, she's certainly playing a very smart game. I just don't know how cynical it is. I think it's possible she's doing exactly what her dad's doing. She's positioning herself to run as Republican because that's how she thinks she's going to be able to get to do what she wants, what she needs to do. Of course. I don't know if it's completely cynical though.
Hot women do great in the Republican Party, dude. You know,
oh yeah.
Any minority is just exalted to the very fucking top immediately.
Yeah, look, we're not racist. We voted for a Hawaiian.
No, we're not sexist. We have Tulsi Gabbard up there. What is her take on abortion? Has she said anything about the abortion issue? I haven't heard anything from her.
I don't know if she has, but
I think she very smartly avoids controversial issues that are unpopular, that she is tacitly supporting with her affiliations.
Yeah, she spent the whole first part of her political career unfucking herself from her dad's uncomfortable stances.
Yeah.
Regardless of what Tulsi's personal reasons for realigning herself are, one of the big reasons she's been so embraced by the right-wing media is because she really fits their narrative. She was never a champion of the social narratives on the left. I don't know what her position are on those things. She just doesn't really talk about it too much, like we were just saying. People like Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, have embraced the strategy of giving the perception that an embrace of left-wing ideals is an embrace of litter boxes in schools and free gender mutilation for children.
I think what she means by green energy is like burning black people for fuel.
That is a plank that would pull very well in certain states, I imagine.
Sure.
But Tulsi fits this to a T. You know, she's leaving the left the same way Joe Rogan did, and it's incredibly advantageous to the right. You know, they can jump onto this bandwagon. She didn't care about the left-wing cultural stuff too much to begin with, and she's going where the power takes her. And it's just so well fitting into the narrative that these right-wing political figures are spewing anyways about, you know, the toxicity of the left, and that it's all cutting kids' genitals and whatnot.
I guess the real question is she going to change her position now that the MAGA movement has sort of failed in the midterms here?
Well, it's failed pretty big. So she went around and campaigned for, like I said, Herschel Walker. Who was the other guy? There was a couple. They were basically all the MAGA candidates. Adam Laxton.
I don't know who that is. Walker's currently facing a Georgia runoff here. He's slightly behind, but who knows? After the runoff, it could change.
So Tulsi went around. She campaigned for, there was a handful of MAGA Republican candidates, and all of them lost except for Herschel Walker, who may or may not lose.
Right.
So she may have hitched her wagon behind the wrong horse on this one. I don't know.
She didn't hitch it that strongly. She can just change where she's hitched to. That's the brilliant part about not taking a solid stance, you know.
Her first foray into establishing herself fully on the right did not bear much fruit. She's not going to have a bunch of friends that she campaigned for that are in Congress to help her out when she inevitably runs with DeSantis or against him.
Well, yeah. Well, if she tries to go back, it's not going to work either. Yeah, I think the Democrats are.
I believe she's burnt those bridges.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Ultimately, her political identity is, you know, much the same as her dad's. You know, she's this chameleon playing both sides of the aisle while pretending to be above these political games. She's kind of like peak political gamesmanship. I'm really not sure that her politics have changed much at all over the years, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because she supports a lot of great causes. It's just her messaging and her alignment. And also, I think incidentally, like her mom, you know, she's just cucking whomever pays attention to her at that time.
Yeah. Very high level grifter.
One of the highest, one might say.
It's pretty impressive when you look at where she came from, man.
Oh, yeah. And that's another one of the big parts of her appeal. Like, she did not come from wealth. You know, her dad was in politics, but he was not a rich guy. She really is like kind of the personification of the American dream. You know, he's this indigenous Hawaiian man that started off as an English teacher, didn't have any money in the family, built some businesses, worked his way up, got into politics. Daughter gets into politics, joins the military, serves overseas, you know, makes it huge, makes it all over she's a newsmaker in U.S. politics.
We need somebody like her that's an operative for us. We need like a DSA member to make this journey through the Tucker sphere, and then at the very end, make that hard turn. After she gets elected, she needs to pull a Castro, basically. I'm asking for an American Castro. Go on Tucker, do a flip flop, get all the fucking working class votes that you can, and then once you get in there, announce your support for the DSA.
Yeah, start abolishing oil companies, nationalizing everything, loans for co-ops. I'm
sure they do a brain scan at some point during the campaign process just to avoid that.
Yeah, her brain's so muddled with adrenochrome. Like I don't think the brain scan would work on her at this point.
Yeah, adrenochrome and Hawaiian hallucinogens.
Yeah, that might be what the streak is, like protective.
It's like when you unplug from the Matrix, you get this. What's the streak? She got the streak. Rogue got the streak at some point during the transit. I don't remember
what was it? She got caught in like the big machine that Magneto had made, the big magnetic machine.
Was that what did it?
I think so. I don't remember. Something like that. God, I remember when that was popular. All the girls in school were dyeing their little blonde streak.
Yeah. After you eat your first baby adrenaline gland, you get the streak.
Yeah, so that's Tulsi Gabbard. I guess we'll see where she goes from here. The kid's going to make big news one day.
After she gets elected president, you better announce your support for DSA, because you're going to let me down if you don't.
Here's the thing. If that would work, if that's where power would take her, she would do it in a heartbeat. All we have to do behind the scenes is convince her that that's going to be her best route to serving in high political office for a long time, which is doable.
Remember the guy who robbed the bank and he had the thing on his neck? And it would
I do remember that. Yeah.
We need one of those on Tulsi.
Yeah. We probably shouldn't say that too loud.
No, I probably shouldn't say that on it.
Canada, recently they banned the sale of handguns. They don't believe in the right of individuals to defend themselves or their loved ones. Now, Jordan Peterson is the latest victim of Canada's prosecution against free speech.
Now they get you. They're under the goddamn